know me well, you know I'm not very good at bragging. I tend to hide things under a bushel barrel, but it is the 30th anniversary of the Women's Museum. We're celebrating it like a Polish wedding. It's like goes on for 18 to 24 months. And I just wanted to point out how much I love this poster, and that the Guerrilla Girls did a similar poster here for us at the Women's Museum to celebrate our 20th anniversary in 2007. It was when we debuted WAC, Art and the Feminist Revolution, here at the museum, and it was the same year where we did an exhibition of the Guerrilla Girls broadsides, which the museum happens to own in its collection, thanks to a donor named Stephen Scott out of Baltimore. Like all Guerrilla Girls works, we love the biting humor that reveals a truth. And I like Berthe Morisot right at the bottom there in her black hat looking out at us. There's a retrospective coming through the Musée d'Orsay to the States sometime soon, so stay tuned for discovering and letting Berthe out into the world. But here is a reality check, a snapshot, just in case we in the U.S. get too smug. This is from the 2015 Art News about solo shows by women artists in museums. If you take a look at the figures, they're better than 1987 when the Women's Museum opened, but there's been some definite progress. At that time, it was maybe 5% women. Some museums had 2% women solo shows. Some had none. But even though the figures were in the single digits then, is this really the best that U.S. museums can do? Adam Weinberg and his great curatorial shop at the Whitney is at the top of this list at 29% women. And of course, what do we think? We think that's good, 29% women, right? Until you flip it around and you realize that's 71% men. And that makes a difference. But is it even worse in Europe? I think not. Other than the Museum of Modern Art's Women's Initiative, which is not terribly robust, and the Brooklyn Museum of Art, which has the Sackler Center for Feminist Art, which we consider a sister institution, Elizabeth Sackler also being on our NIMWA advisory board, it appears that there is no director in a museum, in any major municipal or federal museum here in the U.S. with a budget of over $30 million, who has publicly proclaimed what these three museum directors in Europe have said. They have made it part of their mission to champion women artists, redress the omissions of history, and bring forward great modern and contemporary women in the arts to their audiences. That is why they're here today, because they're the leading edge of what will one day become that sea change, and we at NIMWA want to applaud their efforts. It is Women's History Month, and we like to cite great examples. So I want to give them a round of applause now. Forte. Of the three, the longest in this game is Frances Morris. You have her bio and can read all about her. But sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words. This was the first time that I had seen two women artists receive top billing at a museum other than my own. And when I came across the Millennium Bridge and saw both these artists' names as headliners, Louise Bourgeois and Doris Salcedo, after I picked myself off the ground, I stopped a bunch of passersby and asked them to take my picture. These were the headliners. I was stoked. Forward 10 years later, and Eike Schmidt becomes the first non-Italian to head the Uffizi. That in itself is amazing. But in his interview with the Art newspaper in 2017, what does he say but the Uffizi will show more women artists? And he showed the work, or at least the Art newspaper showed the work of Sister Plautilla Nelli. Plautilla Nelli was the cause célèbre, and is probably still the cause célèbre, of Jane Fortune from Indianapolis, who also lives in Florence part-time. She is a member of the National Museum of Women in the Arts Advisory Board, and she caught Mrs. Holliday, our founder's bug. She really set about, when she went to Florence, to rediscover and celebrate or bring to greater recognition women artists. And Plautilla Nelli was her great artist that she felt she really was bringing to the forefront. So it was lovely when I saw that indeed Jane Fortune's efforts were being recognized by Eike in his first few months at the Uffizi. We had the opportunity to show Nelly's work in virtual reality in our 2012 exhibition, Italian Women Artists, Renaissance to Baroque. And I've had the pleasure of seeing her work since in situ in Florence with our committee, our Italian committee there. That Schmidt should have selected Plautilla Nelli as the example of rediscovery and inclusion meant the world to us. At around the same time as Eike Schmidt was placed at the Uffizi, Laurence Descartes was named the director of the Musée d'Orsay. And we met together in Paris when the Woman House exhibition, which is downstairs now, and I hope some of you have seen it. Have any of you been on the second floor today? Show of hands. Well, great. Hopefully some of you will either be able to see it tonight or come back again. But we opened the Woman House at La Monnaie de Paris, which is known as the Mint, which is a new, relatively new contemporary art space. And I had the opportunity at that time to speak with Laurence. And she talked of her plans for historical and contemporary exhibitions of women artists like Camille Claudel, Berthe Morisot, and Paula Rego, all of whom have had major shows here at the Women's Museum over the years. But equally important, she said to me, music to my ears, that she was into scholarship and research, and that she wanted to catalyze a new wave of French scholarship on women artists, which I hope she will discuss with us today. As we celebrate Women's History Month, it's wonderful to have these three directors here with us to tell us what they are doing to advance gender parity in the arts and to talk at their museums and also to talk about gender parity in general when it comes to artistic enterprises. But I also wanted to say that you, too, have your part to play. You have the chance to make a difference. This month is the third installment of our hashtag 5WomenArtists campaign. And we are asking social media users, can you name 5 women artists, in order to help increase awareness of gender inequality in the art world. This year, we are asking you to place a special emphasis on sharing the stories of women of color who you know, whose work you love, who often face discrimination both on race and gender. Last year, more than 420 national and international institutions and nearly 11,000 individuals joined our hashtag 5WomenArtists to promote women artists in all 50 states and across 7 continents, including the Antarctica Arts Center. They're not participating this year again. I'm not sure what happened to them. But please join us by following and posting about hashtag 5WomenArtists on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter, and also by tagging us at Women in the Arts. Now it is my pleasure to turn the podium to first Frances Morris, the director of Tate Modern, then followed by Eike Schmidt of the Uffizi, and finally Laurence Descartes of the Musée d'Orsay. Thank you.